What if the problem isn't you? What if you're in the wrong room? My suspicion, you're not broken and you don't need to be fixed. You have outgrown where you are. Let's get more space and freedom to redesign the life you deserve. Welcome to the Reinvention Room. I'm Allison Hare, coach for ambitious women making big changes, and we are rethinking everything we've been taught. Part pop culture, part real talk, and all smarter ways to live life on your own terms. Woo! She's here. She is finally here. The Reinvention Room is launched/relaunched. If you are new here, welcome. I'm so glad that you're here. If you have returned, welcome back. Welcome to the party and welcome to my room. I want you to think of this podcast as a place to find more room. Because what I know for sure about you is that you don't have a lot of space in your life. You have packed your life so tight with expectations, with accolades, with all the boxes checked that you have triumphantly put on your plate because you could, and you overprove your worth. But then that plate gets a little too crowded and you're running a mile a minute. And I'll tell you, it feels really, really good to run that way because that feels like your comfort zone. Here's where we're flipping things on its head. It's going to be a little bit of a different vibe if you have been here before. And this episode in particular, it's going to be provocative. It is going to be edgy. Have you heard of Tradwives yet? You will not leave here without a big fat opinion formed. So I'm going to do a little bit of a backstory on the name change, and I think it'll all tie together. Why am I talking about Tradwives? What is this new direction? Here, we are talking about redesigning the blueprints for whatever your next chapter is. What are the practical steps to take? But here's the other piece of this. I want to use this podcast as a mirror, and a mirror to help you see yourself clearly. So I think we feel pretty confident in how we see ourselves in a lot of ways, but all of the studies show that we're pretty wrong, actually, of how we view ourselves. And sometimes we can be wrong to our detriment, meaning we don't feel like we've got the capability or ability or room or something to make the changes that we want. And I'm here to tell you, we are going to blast all of that and we are going to open the roads for you. So I want you to listen all the way to the end. I don't think you're going to be able to turn this off because it is so fascinating what I've been uncovering. When I think about like changing the name and how all of this works together. So I'll give you a little bit of a history lesson. This podcast is 5.5 years old, almost 6 years old. And this is going to be the fifth name that this podcast has had. It's always been kind of the same. I mean, obviously I'm the common denominator here, but it always has been through changing the culture through the lens of changing ourselves, meaning how do we make a bigger impact in the world using our own personal brand, whatever that looks like, using our own reputation, our purpose, what lights us up, all of those things. And so when I started the podcast, I called it Little Left of Center. Now, when you think of Little Left of Center, most people think about politics. And it was never a political podcast, although it was born of political frustration. But the reason why I called it Little Left of Center, my mom always used to say that I think a little left of center. And I think of that as somebody who might be a little bit quirky, might think a little bit differently. I thought it was a term of endearment, but I had to continuously explain to people it was not a political podcast. And so then for a hot minute, I changed it to Bright This Way, kind of a positive spin on let's figure out a way forward. But it sounded way too inspirational. It wasn't very clear. And so I had guidance to change it again to Culture Changers. And it was Culture Changers for a lot of years, but nobody was like Googling, how do I become a culture changer? In fact, I don't think people think in that way. And I started to have these reflective questions again about who am I serving? And a lot of the people that come to this podcast consider themselves late bloomers. They're continuously curious, they're learning. And so I called it Late Learner. But you know what? I outgrew late learner. And I think you did too. I think late learner is kind of passive, right? This is more of an action oriented, and me personally am more of an action oriented person. So there was a little bit of an evolution of the podcast. But one of the things, the little secret tricks about me, I am a coach. And so I predominantly work with women who are navigating big transitions. I happen to love helping people launch in the direction that they want, where they might feel stuck otherwise, or they might feel overwhelmed before they start because there are so many different options. Where do they even begin? That's kind of my zone of genius. However, what people come to me for, and I don't advertise this, but a lot of people come to me to help them launch their podcast. So I've got a whole program for it. A lot of times people will ask me, Allison, there's so many podcasts out there. Does anybody need to hear my dumb voice? And really the answer is yes. And the question I always ask is, what is your weird? What is that quirk about you? Because that is what keeps people endeared to you. That's where you kind of plant your own little corner of the internet, and your people will find you. You just have to like put yourself out there and create a bridge so they can find you. So one of the things about this new direction with Reinvention Room has to do with a little bit of my weird. And so I've been blogging for three plus years. So every single week, every single Thursday, it's called the Reinvention Roadmap. I send out an email. If you want to get on the list, you can go to allisonhair.com/email or click it in the show notes. Would love to get to know you better. But I send out a short email on Thursdays. But I always have a PS. And the PS parts are things that I'm reading, that I'm watching, things that I've found in the culture that I feel like are really important and feel like are really important reflections of where we are, who we are becoming, and what's happening out into the world. And so while they look like a little footnote in my mind, they are massive. Like I am overthinking about all of this and taking up so much real estate, living rent free in my head. And so part of the direction for this is allowing the emergence of the pop culture side of what we do to really infiltrate this podcast and act as a mirror for us. Because I think it is a reflection of where have we been? How did we get here? And where are we going? What is possible? And I think the spoonful of medicine, sugar makes the, what is it? I don't know. I personally think that culture is changed the quickest through entertainment, through the way that we learn in a way that feels like sugar. Does that make sense? So it's a little bit about what is going to be different. There are going to be a few other surprises and changes with it too. But who is this podcast for? Well, here's what I know. If you are over 35, over 40, you are reinventing yourself, either by choice or by force. And sometimes both, right? And my hope is that you retain as much choice as you possibly can when it feels like there is no room. And that is why this podcast is called the Reinvention Room. The room aspect of it, I mean, reinvention is, it's strong, right? Like what is a reinvention? And I think we are continuously reinventing ourselves. We're continuously consuming self-help and personal development and going to see our therapist. We're going to the doctors. We are exploring and learning and reading and ingesting information and putting new stuff in our body, trying to figure out, how do I operate better? How do I feel better? How do I optimize what I have? And so the reason why I call it Reinvention Room is a double entendre. And really the room is because most people that come to me, they feel like they don't have any room. And really the comfort zone is where we know. And that is kind of like the running a mile a minute kind of stuff that feels really comfortable, even though it may not be optimal for us. We wish we had more space. The room aspect is how to get more room, how to stretch your edges, how to find the room, because I can promise you it is available to you. I work with people day in and day out. We can always find the pockets of time to start readjusting. Essentially, it's kind of, you've got all the pieces. It's just rearranging it in a different order and then removing some of the pieces that no longer serve you. And part of it is taking a good hard look at what does that look like? And so what is different is that you're going to find more pop culture here. I also think something that is different is that there are going to be less experts trying to fix us. What do I mean by that? I have a personal belief that the self-help and the personal development industry is almost pathologizing us and almost inventing problems we did not know we had, in the spirit of, if you're a people pleaser, if you are somebody that struggles with imposter syndrome, it feels like a pathology, like something is wrong, something is broken. And I'll give you an example. I am somebody who has forever loved, I'm a seeker, right? Like I've always loved learning and I love consuming a lot of information. I love personal development and self-help and all of that stuff. I would ingest so much and consume so much and go into the therapist and having the coaches and all of those things and plugging into all of these experts and consuming Mel Robbins and Glennon Doyle and Jamie Kern Lima and all of these people that are all continuously reinforcing the message that something is wrong with me and needs to be fixed. And by me, I mean with you. And that is kind of like the labeling, how to fix, how to uncover, how to get around. And so how to improve, which the implication is that something is broken. Now, while I think that stuff is really helpful in doses, I felt like the more I consumed, the worse I felt. And I should be levitating at this point, right? And so that's kind of where I want to pull away. And I have to check myself too, that when I start to over label things, again, I do think it's important for self-reflection and kind of evaluating and taking things apart. But an overdose of it, I think, has a negative impact that usually focused on what's wrong. I personally believe that people who come to me and come to the show, you're not broken. You don't need to be fixed. You have just outgrown your container. The Reinvention Room is here. So I want you to think about what you'll get out of listening is this is a blueprint for your next chapter. These are practical steps to take. It's an opportunity for you to prioritize yourself again, permission to experience full body joy. And what are the possible options that are available for you going forward? And which one do you take? And we are going to be talking about the underbelly that nobody talks about. And a lot of that is that I think this fuel for the go, 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 go has a lot to do with shame and guilt. And again, I'm not pathologizing it, or if I am, I'm talking out of both sides of my mouth and forgive me, but we are working towards there's nothing wrong and nothing needs to be fixed. We're acknowledging what's there and we're reframing things. So we're going to talk about Tradwives today. Do you guys know what a Tradwife is? Tradwife is short for traditional wife. I'm going to unpack this. It is going to be such a juicy episode. I'm super excited about this. Tradwives light up my brain faster than a hit of cocaine. I don't even know. I've never tried cocaine. Are they called hits? I don't even know. Tradwives are not only a cultural phenomenon, but the emotions, the challenges, and the allure of simplicity in a complex world. That's what we're going to unpack today. So if you're wondering, what the fuck is a Tradwife? Well, it's short for traditional wife. And this is where the concept is the return and the glorification of traditional roles and values in the 1950s American family. The truth is that the 1950s American family was actually never like this, but you can go with a fantasy of what that looks like. Husband works and provides, wife stays home, homeschools the children, and cooks, often making every single ingredient from scratch. And often, Tradwives have religious ties and conservative views. So that's kind of the overview of it. Now, there's so much controversy in the name, Tradwife. Conservatives find the name very offensive and derivative. Traditional feminists consider the movement a regression in a woman's place in society. And really, people are longing for simplicity, authenticity, and purpose. I'll kind of give you my opinion about it towards when we kind of talk a little bit more. And the whole concept is like really a lightning rod. And I can't talk about Tradwives without talking about Ballerina Farm. So if you go on Instagram, you can look up Ballerina Farm. Her name is Hannah Neeleman. She has over 20 million followers worldwide, and she truly is so polarizing. Hannah Neeleman, or Neeleman, I'm not sure how you pronounce it, Ballerina Farm. She is absolutely exquisite. She is breathtakingly beautiful. She's blonde. She's very thin. She is a former Juilliard ballerina. The story is that she was a Juilliard trained ballerina. She would enter into pageant. She's absolutely exquisite. And she met her now husband, who kind of swept her off her feet in her senior year. They got married right away. Her husband is the son of the founder of JetBlue. So very, very wealthy man. Both of them come from the Mormon faith. And so they went to Brazil. They got married, started having kids. So right now she is 34 and they have kids from age 1 through 12, 8 kids, 8 kids. Oh my God. Can you imagine 8 pregnancies in 11 years, starting when she was 22, 34. And so they moved to Brazil together and somehow they fell in love with farming. And so they moved to a ranch in Utah and started to build a farm on it. And what's interesting about this is when I first started hearing about Tradwives and I found Ballerina Farm and I was down the rabbit hole. I remember 45 minutes later, I was like, what the fuck am I watching? And I was so captivated by Hannah. She's such a calm, beautiful presence. What she does is she kind of films herself cooking and making everything from scratch and working on the farm in this very calm and measured and calming kind of cadence. And she's so beautiful. So everything is like aesthetically pleasing. And that is kind of a trait of the Tradwives, or at least the ones that are on socials, is to make not only their home look beautiful, but themselves. So they're in like petticoats, or they're in, maybe some prairie core is what it's called, where they're wearing these kind of, I don't know if they're vintage, but like throwbacks to the 1950s. So she has this calming voice, this demeanor. And after 45 minutes, I realized I was so pissed off. I was so agitated. And it wasn't because I didn't enjoy what I saw. It's because of how it made me feel. And not that this is a surprise, but I have zero aspirations to live on a farm. I have no aspirations to homeschool my kids. In fact, my kids should thank me for not homeschooling them because they would end up way dumber. I'm doing them a service by sending them to school to be taught by others. And honestly, my hats are off to those moms that do homeschool. I have nothing but respect and regard and love for the choice that you make for your children. But honestly, I don't have aspirations to even cook. And so we'll get back to that shortly. So how did we get here? Why is this so polarizing? Well, let me break it down. It's not what you think it is. And this is where it gets so interesting from all the different sides. In many cases, women and families feel like this is the more modern version of feminism. They look at us fighting for equal rights, being away from our families, working our butts off. For what? A little progress? There's still a massive wage gap, gender gap. We're burning out. We're being away from our families. We have so much stress and anxiety. There is a chasm of inequity between men and women. So what is it all for? And in many cases, they say, we've gone to college, we've gotten the degrees, we've worked in the workforce and been beat down by the frenetic pace and the relentless demands while their kids are essentially being raised by someone else. They've been sold a bill of goods. And by them moving to a simpler life where the woman stays home, where she looks pretty and keeps the house looking beautiful and raising the children themselves and cooking and doing everything from scratch and being close to the earth by using sustainable ingredients and making everything and no processed foods, obviously all of that stuff, they know their roles. There is no confusion, right? The husband can go to work and provide for the family without the added stress of splitting duties and trying to juggle it all. Whew, I know you're busy. Deep down, you want freedom to choose and freedom of your time to finally live a life that feels exciting again. But instead, you might feel crushed behind that packed schedule, convincing yourself it's fine, it's fine. With Freedom 25, you don't have to push off what you want anymore. In just one powerful workshop day and 8 weeks of one-on-one and community support, you are going to design the next chapter of your life, rearrange what matters most, and set a plan into motion to achieve the change you are craving. And you'll have a super supportive community wrapping you in a big warm hug of support and guidance. Enrollment is now open, but space is limited. Go to AllisonHare.com/freedom25 today to claim your spot and take control of your life. And it's seen in the community as a collaborative, harmonious partnership, not as some kind of contentious hierarchy. And honestly, I can totally see the appeal. You know, for like half of a wistful moment. I can see it's almost like a seductive approach of like, wow, what would it be like to just lay the armor down and let somebody else take care of the financial aspect and making all of the decisions outside of the home, where this can really be the master of my domain. And I can raise the kids and spend more quality time with them and not have all these missing moments. On the other side, it's thought to be a relinquishing of equal rights as a woman and sliding progress backwards, almost as an FU to the Me Too movement. It's a glorification of the patriarchal society and kind of like a mirror to the Bible of like women came from the man's rib. There was always a hierarchical allusion to where women's place are in the Bible. And there's even suspicion. This is where it gets really, really interesting. There is even suspicion that the Tradwife movement is almost like an MLM, almost like a way to convert people and get people back to religion and faith and family. And so we saw this play out on a very, very public stage in the political realms of one fighting for one version of family, one fighting for a new, more modern version of family, a more updated version of family. But in this world, it is like have as many children as God wants. What I think is even more interesting and more complex, these things are never like two-dimensional, is that Tradwives, in many cases, have grown their platforms on Instagram, on TikTok, on whatever platform, and are selling their wares like Ballerina Farm. And so are they really stay-at-home moms that don't work? No, they work their butts off. And there was a provocative profile done on Ballerina Farm last year. It was from, I think it was the Daily Mail UK, that sparked a global conversation around her lifestyle. And the question was, and this article positioned Ballerina Farm, Hannah, posing the question, is she trapped in a marriage with a tyrannical, controlling husband? Why don't they show the real moments of their kids fighting? They have 8 kids. She is a full-time content creator. And when you watch her posts of making yogurt and pasta from scratch, you'll notice that there are jump cuts literally every 1 to 3 seconds to keep your attention that require heavy editing, multiple angles, kids coming in and out of the frame. I'm telling you, this blew up the world. People were so freaking pissed. After she had her 8th child, she competed in a Mrs. America pageant and she won first place only 1 month after her 8th child was born. And her body, I mean, she's got a dancer's body. She looks like she had 0 kids. It is remarkable. And so, you know, women were pissed, like they were about to burn her at the stake. And so the question is, Is it privilege? Does she have tons of help that are not being shown? She's running an entire farm and business where she sells goods and produce, and people love it and defend her and support her. So how is she a traditional wife when there's no way she's not working around the clock to create content, to raise her family, to run the farm, be on camera? She makes it look so easy. I think that's the part that really pisses people off. I think that's the rub there, that the aesthetic is that it's so joyfully and purposefully done and makes it look so easy with her calm and measured demeanor. Plus, she's white. She's fair skinned, blue eyes, massively wealthy to begin with, and so thin and beautiful. You know she's a damn target. This is a recipe for jealousy when most people are barely scraping by trying to hold it all together and maybe even get a shower in, let alone making pasta from scratch. So Ballerina Farm is really kind of a lightning rod. There's another Tradwife. Her name is Nara Smith, who is a South African Black model married. And the reason why I say Black model and why that's remarkable is because in the Tradwife world, predominantly, most of them are white and have a level of privilege. A lot of them have religious or Mormon ties. And so to have somebody from the Black community kind of representing this and expanding this kind of platform has been groundbreaking for her. But she's married to another gorgeous model. And it's so wild. She creates content and her kids will say, Mom, I want s'mores. And she'll say, okay. And she goes and makes the marshmallows from scratch. She makes the graham crackers from scratch. She makes the chocolate from scratch. And so a couple days later, they have their s'mores. Voila. And it's definitely kind of a slower, more patient idea. And not only does she make it from scratch, she will do it in full makeup with a couture dress on. Oof. She pisses off so many people. But also, there's a whole community of people that deeply love and admire these women. There is an element of fantasy and an element of ease. And like the thought of relieving the pressures of having to go out and work for the simplicity and joys of being home and like fully plugging into your family. I mean, I know for me, I'm recording this on New Year's Eve and I've got this launch and I've got a big launch, a workshop that I'm enrolling people in. And so I am working around the clock where honestly, I am so tired and I would love to be a Tradwife right now. I would love to be a Tradwife right now. For the past couple of months, I've been waking up every morning at 5 a.m. to work on this stuff so I could be present for my family while they are up and do all the other things and work and all of that stuff and coach and do that. And so I totally can see the allure. It's very seductive. And again, the husband can be the head of the household and everyone knows their roles. But there are also studies that beg the question of deep loneliness in this lifestyle because you are no longer really reliant on the community as much as you are having a self-sustaining, insulated lifestyle within your home. The kids don't socialize as much when they're homeschooled. And because there's such an aspiration of making everything aesthetically pleasing, what happens when the wife ages and doesn't look as youthful as she once was before? Then what? So I think what people are really frustrated about is what's not talked about. So like the thing with Ballerina Farm, she's Mormon, but she never really talks about her faith. She doesn't talk about her political views. You don't see her kids fighting or that she never comes on and says, I had a really tough morning. It's all like day to day, very calm, measured reflections on what went on that day. But what people usually don't, but because people make so many assumptions and they're so angry, it's kind of an interesting thought around like the tension that comes when you don't say something. And so the demand is like, be real, tell us what the real story is. And she's putting out this beautiful content and she puts out what she wants. And so on one of the things of what are not talked about in many cases is political affiliation. And although it's widely believed that there are very conservative and often Christian fundamentalists and of the Mormon faith, and in fact, If you want to watch a variation of this and kind of an evolution of this, you can watch Secret Lives of Mormon Wives, where they're trying to modernize feminism in their religion while maintaining their position as a devout Mormon. So it's an interesting juxtaposition. But again, political affiliation is typically not talked about. I think the other thing is all the work that's being done behind the scenes that make it look so effortless. Well, also, we don't really need to see how hot dogs are made, but we happily eat them at the Braves games. I think the other piece of this that really can be frustrating and not talked about is that it feels like an unattainable lifestyle. Most people don't have the time or the wealth to keep up appearances that way. And it can make it feel like people are rubbing privilege in people's faces of women who are working so hard just to make ends meet or survive and provide for their family and live a life that works for them. And the elephant in the room is that they're not really a stay-at-home mom. Real Tradwives, they aren't creating content looking for likes and shares and trying to find deals and sponsorships. They're quietly living their lives, making their own choices, and not putting it out there for the world to see and judge. And so you can imagine with multi-million followers of Tradwives who are either have brand deals or sponsorships or selling their own wares, they're running a business. They are working. I don't know if you've tried to put a reel together. I know for me, it is not easy. And so that's why when I do it, I'll just put on my face and record something and hope it's not dumb and put it out there, because otherwise it's just not happening. And so to make things look beautiful, keep people's attention, cut them up in a way that is heavily edited, it requires a lot of effort. And you have to look a certain way. You have to be dressed a certain way. Your kids have to be behaving. You have to have all the ingredients and everything ready. So as for me, what do I think? Well, live life like that. And it works for your family, go do it. It doesn't bother me at all what these women are choosing to do with their lives. Go for it. But having said that, I also have a policy that if I'm getting too critical or too judgy of others, especially on social media, or it's making me feel jealous or feel like shit, I unfollow. It's not really in my algorithm, and that works better for me because I don't need to be poked and prodded. But anytime there's a podcast episode or an article about Tradwives, I am reading it immediately. And it's funny, there's a well-known and well-respected culture writer. Her name is Anne Helen Peterson, who did like a deep dive piece on Tradwives about a year ago. And the way this project started, is she was challenged to live the Tradwife lifestyle for 30 days and report on it. But here's what happened. She couldn't do it. She flat out was completely allergic to it. Trying it, she could not figure it out. But she wrote an incredibly compelling piece that went viral on what she did discover, and I'll link it in the show notes. I thought it was really fascinating. But it does beg the question, could you live that lifestyle? Could you consider a world where you could just let your career aspirations just go and repurpose them and focus on your family? I'll admit, it is a tempting idea. I have been a workaholic my entire life. My mother was a stay-at-home mom of 6 kids and drilled it into mine and my sister's heads. Never rely on a man to make money. Always make your own. Do you know why she said that? My mother was a caterer. She did bake everything from scratch. I watched my mom fall into a crippling depression when my parents divorced. She lived with chronic illness and died with very, very little money. My mother was brilliant. She had so many creative aspirations and she did it all. And then dad left and he was gone. And I think there is something to be said about agency and choices, but also changing the narrative of what is possible. So for me, Tradwife life isn't really my deal, but I can fantasize and then quickly kiss my husband, get back to work, and keep making these fun podcasts for you. And speaking of you, of this new format, I'm curious to see if there are topics you would love to have me cover. Maybe there are things that you're overthinking about or have thought spirals about that are kind of in the zeitgeist or in the culture that are changing for you and you would love to know more about. And maybe I'll do a cultural deep dive on it. I could ask you to leave me a review, and I hope you do. I could also ask you to DM me with your comments, your opinions, and praise. I mean, if you've got negative feedback, you can keep that to yourself. JK. But my DMs are open. I could ask you to subscribe to my email at AllisonHair.com/email, and I will. But really what the absolute biggest compliment is you sharing this with your friends and talking about it in your circles. That's how culture changes. And honestly, I know that when I'm listening to a podcast and I'm like, oh my God, you've got to hear this, and I text it out, I know it is good. And when people tell me that they do that for me, or I see Reinvention Room or Allison __ hair tagged on a post where people are sharing my episodes, I know that it's working. And that is by far the biggest compliment I can get when these episodes are changing you and they're changing the way you think and you want to discuss them. So please share it. Please tag me when you do. And if you do have suggestions for improvements or topics you want to dig deeper into, let's chat. Please go grab one of the last spots for the Freedom 25 workshop and mini mastermind to help you design your next chapter in one day. We will work together on this by going to AllisonHair.com/freedom25. Until then, I leave you with a loving reminder to spread your arms wide, take up more space, and create a room big enough to hold every beautiful inch of your dreams and desires for a better life and a better world, one that you create and that you design on your own terms. Because you deserve it all. I'm Allison Hair. Thanks for helping me paint the Reinvention Room.